Welcome, everybody. This is the CMY show. We actually found a name this time. I'm Marc. Here with me, I have Yaniel and also Christian. We're back again, another week, another discussion, and we have a couple cool topics to talk about. But first, I think we want to talk a little bit about ourselves. I think we just kind of started talking last time. We got right into it. I guess I'll kick it over to Yanni to go first, since I introduced him last, and he's the last in the CMY. So.
I was actually second in the introductions. But
all right. Well.
But I'll lead. So we wanted to discuss how we all started getting into photography and shooting or whatnot. I think I started with my dad's camera back in early 2000s, like 2001 probably. He had a Sony Mavica, whatever, F717. If you've been around for a while, you might recognize it. It looks like this little box in the back with this massive lens in the front that would pivot. And it was probably like an amazing digital camera for back in the day. It was like you get like low angle shots because of pivoting. Instead of having a tilt screen, it had a tilt body, like everything tilted around the screen. And I would use that.
I've never seen that before.
Oh man, I'll put a link in the show notes. But it was an interesting design, and I actually love that camera, and I would use it a lot for car photography because I was really into cars back then. So I would shoot all my friends' cars, including probably Marc's, with that camera.
Yeah.
Did I?
I don't know, not that. I think whatever DSLR you had is probably the first thing you shot my car with. So
man, that DSLR was 2005, and I've known you since I had the GTI when I definitely had that Sony.
Oh yeah, I don't remember seeing it. I would remember that thing.
I have to go back through, look at the access data in Lightroom, see. But man, there was no competition back then, so it was really easy to be a good photographer. It was like basically me, and it was like the only competition was Mike Alonso.
Oh god,
not a photographer now.
He actually is a photographer. He still is, yeah. He actually still is a photographer, and that was great back then, and he's still good now doing like aircraft stuff.
Yeah,
And before that, actually, my dad always had Sony cameras. I guess he has no taste, but whatever.
The irony. The irony.
He had the floppy disk ones that you put like a little floppy disk in, and it would hold like 20 photos because they were postage size back then. After that, he got the CD one, which was annoying because CDs had to be
burned.
You couldn't use an AOL floppy disk like CD in your camera. You actually had to go out and buy discs to use in this camera, which kind of sucked. And it's a consumable and like an SD card. But I mess around with those all the time, and it was super fun to shoot with. And eventually he got the 717, and that set it off. And from there, I haven't always had a camera, but there haven't been very long periods without having some sort of a camera. And I moved on from the 717. One of my friends sold me a Nikon D40 or something, super old school APS-C camera. That was fun, but I never really got into it because I didn't like buying lenses back then. Moved to Micro Four Thirds with the GF2.
Oh, I remember that.
And that was fun to use for a while, but I also never really had a goal with that camera. So I just kind of shot whatever any vacations or whatnot. And eventually when I got married, my wife's wedding gift to me was a Fuji X100. And that set off everything that's going on now. And
it's a good wedding gift.
T. Yeah, X100T. I remember that. Yeah.
It definitely was. When I opened that up, I'm like,
oh. I've never had a Micro Four Thirds camera.
Yeah. They were awesome. Yeah, they were. I think they were awesome pre-camera phone. High quality camera phones. Because I remember that when he got the GF2, I was like, man, this thing is so small. The quality's so awesome, right? That was like the big draw back then. I mean, I had Micro Four Thirds for a while too. But yeah, I mean, now it's to be honest with you, your smartphone kind of rivals that for like convenience and being stuck in your pocket or anything like that. So,
but Marc, how did you start?
Well, similar thing, right? I mean, I think to some extent our families, we were all probably used to having some kind of camera around back in the film days, or I mean, whether it was like the disposables or something. The first camera I remember carrying around often, I don't remember the brand, it was actually something cheap, but it was a film camera, because I remember when I was in college, I was just always like the guy in the group having a camera on them at some point, right? When that just kind of wasn't a thing like now. And it was a film camera because I remember going back through recently and digging through some stuff and finding just, you know, snapshots of things that come across me, cars, friends hanging out at places, things like that. And again, pre cell phone camera days. Didn't really do much with it for a while. That was 2000s, the early 2000s. Then I want to say 2007-ish. Had another point and shoot, but that was digital. Had some fun with that. I think it was a Sony as well too. They used to take the little, you know, chewing gum memory stick things, whatever they were called. Forgot the name now. So I had that for a while, and then later on, 2009.
Memory stick duo.
Yeah, memory stick. There we go. Memory stick duo. Yeah. In 2009-ish, I went to California to visit a friend who was a professional photographer who did, you know, shoots for like car magazines. I think it was at the time he was working for Drag, a magazine or something, and you know, went to go visit him and hang out over there. He was like, you know, you didn't bring a camera? You don't have a camera? I'm like, no. I was like, I had a 3GS at the time. It was an iPhone 3GS, which again, back then was pretty good. I was like, yeah, this is all I need. I mean, you know, and he marched me to Best Buy like the first day I got there, like the same evening, had me buy a Canon Rebel XS, you know, with the kit lens, the 18-55.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I took on that trip or used on that trip. And I was like, oh, this is pretty awesome. You know, so same thing, shot a lot of cars, you know, did like a whole Project 365 thing where I'm shooting every day, just, you know, doing the, you know, the stereotypical thing when you get your first professional, or I wouldn't say professional, but, you know, higher end camera that can do a lot of things, right? Slow shutter speed things, you know, hooking up, putting a mount on my car, like doing a slow shutter speed at night type of thing to get the light trails, like all kind of cool stuff. And, you know, it was mostly travel, right? Because that's actually what got me into it. But, you know, that progressed until into like the T2i, into, you know, more lenses. I had a whole bunch of Canon L lenses for a while, but it was still a hobbyist. And then I got tired of carrying around all that stuff because it was really heavy. Went to Micro Four Thirds for a while, started with an EPL5, then an EM5, and then jumped to Sony full frame. Then what did I get after that? I think Fuji for a bit. I got into Fuji. So as we viewers and listeners will learn, like I am the guy who has probably shifted and changed directions multiple times and probably will continue to do that for a while. And then today I'm, you know, fast forward, I have a bunch of Fuji stuff and Leica stuff. And I think that's really it for cameras. I have to look back and see, but yeah, mostly Fuji and Leica today. So.
Damn, so you guys have been doing this way longer than I have.
and not professionally either, right? I mean, this is just for fun for the most part. I mean, you know, yeah. I've done some paid work, I think I did get paid for it. Well, at least credited publicly, but I think Neil's the only one that's done paid work outside of you, sorry.
Paid work stresses me out. Christian, before you go into your origin story, I added the 717 to the show notes, so you want to check it out. It's an interesting camera.
Okay.
But go on.
Let's see. Can you pull it up on the Zoom screen? Oh, that's. Oh wow.
Is that it?
You missed the. It's 717. 717. That's
717. Gotcha. Yeah, I was searching for it.
But we had one of those. Something, either that one or something similar.
Oh man, that's like wild.
Jeez.
None of those are it either. Hold on.
You sure it was 707? I mean, this guy comes up here.
Take out the Mavica. And take out the FD. Just put 717.
Handycam, maybe.
There we go.
Oh,
holy crap!
Dude, that thing looks like.
Look at that. Actually, I want to check this out. This is,
man.
that's crazy. Okay, yeah, there is a 707, but yeah, there you go. Let's see what we got here. Wow, 1/2000 shutter speed.
It was a really, really, really good camera back then.
Right.
Wow.
Was it even a megapixel?
I think it was 3.
It
had to say it somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not seeing where no MPEG. Whatever. What do you mean? We can see what it is. So yeah, it's DSC-F717.
2 megapixels. No.
5 megapixel.
5 megapixel.
Wow. Yeah.
That's, like you could print that 8x10.
We've come a long way.
Yeah, it's the 4th generation as well. It wasn't even like an early gen apparently. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
That is really awesome. I don't think I've ever seen that camera before.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's really cool.
All right, so Christian, what's your origin?
Okay. I used to be into music. I studied audio engineering, so I spent all of my days in recording studios, days and nights, more so nights than days, in recording studios, doing production. I played in bands. It was fun. It was a good time. But I decided in 2011 or 2012, I decided to buy a camera because I wanted to shoot. I had a friend who was doing the artist that I used to work with, he was doing our music videos with a DSLR, and I wanted to like also direct. I love film and stuff, so I wanted to direct music videos or something similar, maybe like even like short films or indie films or something like that, and get into film, not so much still photography. So I bought a used Canon 6D, which is way ahead of when you guys started.
Way after, right? After.
Yeah, way after.
Yeah,
for sure.
I almost bought a 6D. Yeah, go ahead.
So I started with the 6D, and then I just started watching YouTube and kind of learning how to use that. And I did a couple little videos, like I did some behind the scenes videos for a friend of mine who's a photographer, Max Reed, and he's still a photographer, amazing photographer. So I would go with him to shoots and just kind of like film him shooting, and then like the model and like the kind of like the vibe, you know, and then make a short little 1 to 2 minute video out of it. And I did a couple of those, and then I started taking stills, but like for fun, of my then girlfriend, who's my now wife. And so what I did was I went to a party one day. It was a friend's birthday party, and I had the camera with me, and I was like, I'm just going to take some photos. So I did. And I had another friend that was there, and she's like, hey, I have a friend who's looking for a photographer for an event. Do you do that? And I don't know why, but I just said yes. I was like, sure, I'll do it. And I got into shooting events. So I started taking stills at events. I started with like these really small real estate networking events. And then I started doing little birthday parties and little baptisms and little this and little that. And I really started falling in love with taking still photography. And I kind of realized that doing film required a lot more people. Like film wasn't something that I could just do alone if I wanted to actually get into filmmaking. And I was a little bit jaded from the music scene and working with other people, working with like, for example, like it was five guys in my band, and it was just like too many cooks in the kitchen basically all the time. And I wanted to kind of shy away from that. So I wanted to just be the boss and do my own thing and like not worry about anyone else's opinion. And I think all of that kind of made up what was my idea to just go straight into still photography. And then I really just fell in love with it. And that's how I started. I shot Canon all the way up until last year.
Wow, sorry about that.
I was actually gonna say, wow, that story sounds so like such a romantic story.
I didn't start with some big like weird looking like film camera or anything like that. I wish
you started with HAL 3000.
It would be way cooler of a story if I did.
I like that do you shoot events? Yeah, why not? Like that's.
It was just kind of like a fake it till you make it moment, and I felt like I knew enough, and I had what I needed to do it. I had like a really crappy, it was called Bolt, the brand of the flash, and that was the flash that I used. It was like, I think it was under $100 on Amazon or something, and that's what I used to shoot the event. And it was the 60 with a 24-70 and a Bolt flash.
And that's all it takes. Like as photographers, I guess, like our big issue is that we see everybody else's work and we compare ourselves to everybody else. And especially when you're starting out, it's like, I can't shoot any events. Look at like, I probably seen like the best event photographers ever. I'm like, I can't do that. Like, don't laugh at my work. And then somebody that's not into it sees what you produce with a non-iPhone, and they're like, wow, this is amazing. I can't believe these photos are so good. And meanwhile, I'm like, I gave you crap.
You know, actually, I'm lying. The first time that I started taking still photos was before I even owned a camera, and it was with like the iPhone 3 or 4 around there with that app called Hipstamatic. You remember that?
Yes.
Oh wow.
The precursor to Instagram.
Yeah.
Yes, Hipstamatic. So, and I remember going up to New York with like my band. We had a show up there, and I remember taking some photos with my iPhone and like doing a little shaking your phone to get the Hipstamatic like films or whatever. And that was kind of, but like, I never thought at that point that I was gonna get into photography at all. It wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. There's very few people I know personally that have gotten into photography because it was like, I want to become a photographer, or, you know, I explicitly like photography, so I'm going to pursue this thing. It's usually like this thing that comes as like a consequence of something else, right? You want to document your travels, you want to document, you know, band life, or you're around something that like photography and cameras are involved, and then you kind of pick it up. Very few people I know personally. I mean, I don't know if there's any difference for you guys, but, you know, most people I know personally have just kind of picked it up and, you know, ran with it, if you will, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it got really serious after a point where, you know, eventually you become like the guy or the girl with the camera always, and then yes, you're the photographer or something, right, in that group or in that environment. So
Like for me, it's not so much that like I had a purpose for the camera. I've just always liked cameras as an object, as technology, as whatnot, like this little black box that creates cool things. So learning how to take good photos has just been like a consequence of wanting to buy more cameras. So I need to learn how to use this thing if I want to justify buying more. And that's it. Like a new camera comes on, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. It does like 100 frames per second. I have no use for that, but I kind of want to see what it's like. And that's what cameras are for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's the gadget addiction, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think all three of us have that gadget addiction. But I have to say, I never really got into cameras as a gadget until I discovered Leica. That's really when I was like, whoa. That's like the first time I remember specifically, I had a Tumblr blog, and I was like scrolling through Tumblr, and I saw this like old looking camera, and I was like, yo, that's wild. Like, that looks amazing. I really want one of those one day. And then I just kind of like, you know, never really thought about it again. And then when I became a photographer, I heard Leica and Leica and Leica, and then I started looking into it and stuff. And that's when I was like, whoa, I need to get into this.
Yeah.
Like,
well, go ahead, Yanni.
No, like for me, like it was kind of like an end game just based on same thing, like the way they looked. I didn't like, I would look at them like the specs, especially for them, I'm like, they're not really there. Doesn't have autofocus, doesn't do any of this stuff, but it's so nice looking. It has like this old school engineering and this hand, like, I don't even know they're handmade, but like it has like a handcrafted appeal to it. I'm like, I want one of those, and I want to own one at one point, and that was always kind of an end game.
Yeah, and the aesthetic of it is just so inviting.
Exactly. And to be honest, when I first got my first thumb, I used it a little bit, and it really sat around for almost a year. Like, I really stuck with this thing. Every photo's like out of focus. Like, I'm missing every single shot. And I was like, really not disappointed in the purchase, guys. Still enjoyed having it, but it just didn't get much use until I guess people at Little Havana started. Then that's when I started using it more and more. But
how did you start People of Little Havana?
All right, so I will get to you. I will get to you. His name is not Chris Mora, Louis Mora from the Leica store. He posted the Leica store had like a video where they actually went with the 28 millimeter Sumeron, I think.
Sumeron, yeah.
To Little Havana, and they shot there. And I had just bought the house.
I think I saw that video.
Hey, like, there's pretty cool photography stuff there, but I didn't do anything about it. Some time passes, and I'm pretty sure with Marc, I was talking about like street photography. We should go shoot somewhere. Look at this cool video of Little Havana. Let's go shoot there. And then I started going to Little Havana and taking photos, but I wasn't doing anything with them, just posting them to my personal page. I was like, and then one day, like, I'm lying in bed on my phone, laying next to my wife in bed with my phone, and I'm talking to Marc like I do all day long. And he's like, why don't you start like an Instagram page for it? And I'm like, Okay. So I actually created like 3 or 4 different pages with different names just in case.
Mm-hmm.
And I started just posting to people Little Havana and like, let's see where it went. And people liked it. And I enjoyed posting, and it gave me purpose to go out and keep on shooting, because without an actual end goal, I would just move on to one of my other hobbies. And that's what's kept me focused on this for so long. And People Little Havana has probably been the longest thing I've ever done continuously all the time, apart from, I guess, working. And
That's great though. Like
that's how it
that
started.
consistency is really what builds. I think that's key in anything you do in life, is just consistency and keeping up with not just the quality of what you're doing, but also keeping the drive and the determination and the discipline.
I think I posted, I don't know if it was 7 days a week or 5 days a week, at least
It was a
one
lot.
photo per day for an entire year,
Yeah.
which I had never done. And then I moved
Yeah,
it to 3.
you were shooting a lot too, because I remember this, like, just kind of since he mentioned that I was kind of part of the reason, I wouldn't say reason why I started, but an influence for it. I remember him shooting a lot, and I mean a lot. This was before his son was born, like a lot of shooting, like every day, like probably on the way in to work, or lunchtime, or on the way home, because it's close by. So that was actually really cool to see, like, if you talk about people that are prolific artists, they produce a lot of work, whether it's music or artwork and everything. It was just like he was just out shooting his ass off.
Right.
And it was really cool to see that. And we joke about it sometimes, just like, yeah, he has like a back catalog of stuff that he just like would set up to post and have it for later on. It's like, all right, I gotta post something. I'm like, I can't keep up with that,
Yeah.
that was really cool to see, because it was, as you said, the dedication to just keep doing it. And I think what made it really cool to watch and then even just understand and appreciate is that, I out of the 3 of us, I'm the only non-Hispanic, right? Like I was born in Jamaica, so I don't really have that background. And I learned through, no, I learned through Yaniel kind of, what Little Havana meant, the history and everything. And it was really cool to see that and see that being documented that way, and like his purpose for it, and him also almost like learn to appreciate a little bit more about like the neighborhood and what's going on there. And, like I also started learning a little bit more about it. So I'd go with him and shoot, and, yeah, I don't necessarily have the connection, but it was cool to see, again, I guess a deeper purpose behind just, all right, I'm going to post pictures to Instagram to like get likes, right? It was like, all right, I'm going to document this. Things are changing, these are the people that are there. I mean, you go often enough that you start to see there's, I call them characters, right? Not in a negative way, but just, you see these people that are there that are from the neighborhood. They're there, they go play dominoes, they go, eat at these places and everything. So it was really
They're
cool
definitely
to see
characters.
right. I mean, yeah, some have their unique quirks and so on, right?
If any of you guys, sorry to interrupt, if any of you guys ever travel to Miami, make sure to make a stop in Little Havana. It's really a special place, and it's got a lot of history and culture. So
yeah. And that's a good point too, because like there's lots of tourists. It is a tourist spot, right? So there you see the buses pull up. So there's just there's often I see it a lot. There's this juxtaposition of like the tourists that come in and like the locals, right? Like you'll see, like, not to be stereotypical, but you see like Asian tourists coming in with like, their phones and taking pictures of everything with like selfie sticks in front of like the giant, roosters that are there. And to me, that's just a really interesting thing, because it's like, people may walk by that every day and not really care about it, but seeing that and that, kind of contrast is really cool sometimes. So, so I again, as a, fly on the wall, if you will, just kind of watching that, it was kind of cool to see that project, take shape and continue on. And, even today where we haven't been out shooting for a long time, but, it's really cool to watch. So
that reminds me of like, Yaniel is kind of like almost Martin Parr-ish in a way, where he's like shooting a very touristical area in Miami for different reasons, but still like, that's just, it reminds me of that, I guess.
And my goal is always to like not have the tourists in my shot.
Yeah.
Which just makes it really hard sometimes. Like sometimes they just have to be in there, but I always try to just get locals in the shots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like the diversity of it and like the culture of it. Yeah, I love that place, man. I've gone with Yaniel to shoot over there, and it's really fun, man. It's really fun. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
So for anybody in Miami that actually wants to start street photography, Little Havana is the place to do it. There's people, it's one of like the most walked areas in Miami. There's interesting people all over the place, and there's tourists with cameras all over the place as well. So everybody that's there is used to being photographed, and they won't really have an issue with you taking their photo. So that's what it was like, kind of like the cheat code for street photography. Like you could go there and just be a street photographer instantly because just pretend you're a tourist.
Everybody has a camera there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like,
what about you, Mark? What do you like to shoot and why?
Yeah, that's changed over time. I think now, so funny, as Yaniel was starting People of Little Havana, I really got into street kind of by osmosis. Because it's accessible, right? I mean, my biggest thing before having kids was travel photography. So yeah, I'd take snapshots, some cool shots here and there of daily life stuff. I mean, it was more just fun, right? Again, I used to shoot Micro Four Thirds earlier in this point in time. So it was really convenient. But, once I started having kids, like it was a thing that keep popping up. But once I had my first kid, like time
as
started,
a father.
As a father, there you go. Once I became a father, time obviously became a little bit more a scarcer resource. So street photography was the one thing that was a little bit more accessible because I could plan a day and say, hey, I'm gonna have, whether I drop my son off at my mom's house or something, to watch him for the day, and I go out half the day, go shoot with get some pictures, even just for the shutter therapy aspect of it. So it started where it's like, all right, this is the only accessible thing, because I wasn't traveling where I used to before, where when I met my wife, before she was my wife, we traveled at least 2-3 times a year. I mean, the first year we started dating, we went to Italy, we went to Canada, we went to where did we go? Jamaica. We went to a bunch of different places, like in the first couple of years. So there's always somewhere that, let's say every 4 months I was looking forward to. So when that went away, it was like, well, okay, well, what do I do? Don't really have time for car stuff anymore. And, cars, I guess I kind of lost interest in it. So street photography was dynamic, and I hate to use that word, it sounds very cliche, but dynamic enough where like it's something different every time you go. And, there are a lot of influences I had. I know we have a whole shout out segment on this, but I'll bring it up now. There's a photographer that I used to follow and still do follow called 6 Street Under on Instagram.
Yeah,
he was
man,
like,
his work is really great,
right? Yeah, it was unique. It was, I think, he was, to me, one of the at least by whatever Instagram feeds me, a pioneer in that, right? Where he was out prolifically shooting, very like artistic looking compositions, and it was just really cool. I mean, I'll if you look at my Instagram right now, you'll see a lot of that tries to mimic that, as I was trying to figure out, okay, what it is like, how do I do these techniques and figure out my own style. So I think a combination of, again, going to shoot with Yaniel and discovering this guy really got me going to the street. So I'd say that's kind of my main focus. I mean, I talked about it in the first episode, right? I do shoot pictures of my kids and family and everything on a day-to-day, but those typically don't make it on my personal Instagram, my Souls and Street account, right? It stays on my personal stuff.
Right.
I travel now for work a lot, so it's really cool. I actually shoot with one of the cameras I have is an X100V, and I've shot with X100F before, so it's pretty easy to travel with and compact, and you can just kind of keep it in a backpack whenever I'm working. So I'll take that on trips and just shoot what's around me. But yeah, that's really what I've been focusing on these days, and it's still fun, right? I mean, whenever I can do it.
Yeah. Traveling and shooting is my absolute favorite. I mean, I'm lucky enough where my job, I'm a portrait and wedding photographer, for those of you who are new here. And my job allows me to travel a whole lot. And while I travel, it's just like my eyes are the lens. Like I don't stop looking at anything around me as if I don't have a camera in front of me. I mean, my camera is always in my hand. It's just having those new environments and new dynamic cultures to look at and take in and capture. It really is like a thrill, and like I think one of you mentioned, it's almost therapeutical in a way. When I go to Paris, for example, I've been there enough times where I kind of know my way around a little bit, and I'll just leave my wife either at the hotel, at the spa, or whatever, and I'll be like, hey, I'm gonna go out and shoot for a couple hours, and then I'll just pound it, man. I'll walk like 6 to 10 miles like nonstop and just shoot, and it's just like the most refreshing thing in the world to me. And COVID has taken that from me.
That has, man. That
Yeah,
has.
but I can't wait to get back to it. Unfortunately, today my Paris trip got canceled. This morning I got an email. We were supposed to go to a photo workshop in Paris, my wife and I. My wife works with me, and we got an email that unfortunately, because of everything that's going on, it's just going to be canceled outright, which sucks because we were really looking forward to going to Paris in October. It was initially set for March, and that obviously got postponed to October, and now it's canceled, and it's really tough. It's our favorite place to go. But we've been, all over Europe and Canada and the States and stuff, and street photography is just, there's such an abundance of it, and there's so many things that you can do that it never gets old.
Yeah.
So building off of that, like as a wedding photographer, stuff like that, how are you dealing with COVID? Like, what's going on with your clients and everything?
Well, everything is postponed and canceled, or canceled, I should say. We're like, I think around currently today, July 14th, around 25 or 26 postponements. Some brides have postponed twice. So it's like they postponed when we're, same thing with the workshop. It was supposed to be like in March, April, and then postponed to like September, October, or even November. Some of our November brides are postponing. It's really tough, man. It sucks, and then the cancellations, we had a couple that unfortunately lost their jobs because of this. They were furloughed at first, and then they just outright lost their jobs, and they're paying for their wedding, so they had to cancel. If I am shooting anything, it's been really pretty small and intimate, and I have to, I keep a mask on, which makes things really difficult. It sucks. It's not like, I wish I could say like, oh, I just throw on a mask and it's no problem. It's not the case. I mean, my EVF gets fogged up.
Mm-hmm.
It wears me out quick. I'm not used to like the go that I was like shooting a wedding every weekend. Now it's like once every maybe 2 months or once a month or whatever. And the physicality of it is really difficult.
That's
keeping
actually,
up and
yeah. Like, off that, you were doing it every single weekend. It's kind of like muscle memory. How has it been after? I'm guessing you probably took a few months without doing pretty much anything. How was it getting back into it? Was it like riding a bike, or?
It was tough. Yeah, no, I mean, yes and no. There was definitely times that I felt like the first wedding that I got back to, it was tough. It was tough to like find my rhythm right away. Just not having my camera in my hand like every single day like I was really had an impact for sure. And then not just that, but physically it's exhausting because I'm not like, even we were talking about this earlier, like I've been Pelotoning and trying to keep fit, but even with that, shooting a wedding is so intense. It's so physically intensive that it's like a specific kind of exercise that if you don't keep up with, you just lose it, So it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge on many angles. It's been a challenge for my inspiration, like I found that before it was like, I just couldn't wait to shoot weddings and like, couldn't wait to get out there. And like, with the travel, it helped a lot where it's like, whoa, we're going to go here and we're going to go there and it's going to be awesome. And my wife works with me as a bridal stylist. So it's like, we make a really good team. And this has just been going on for so long that it wears on you, it wears on you, it wears on your inspiration. I've been taking some online workshops. I've been doing a bunch of research on new photographers that I've never heard of, or I should say old photographers I've never heard of, reading up on Magnum photographers and just studying all that work. I have tons of photo books that I look through all the time. But even then, like, I don't find that drive that I had when I was like really in it, you know?
Yeah, so Chris, out of all of us, Christian's the one that's been apparently the most productive doing all his research and learning all these things during COVID. Besides that, if you
Well,
actually
I've
can
also
go
been
out,
playing a lot of video games, to be fair. A lot of video games.
I know that feeling too. 305 hours in Animal Crossing.
The Last of Us 2 came out.
Oh my god!
I mean, there goes my life.
So,
You guys.
if you could put down the video games, are you gonna be shooting anything this week?
I have a couple portrait sessions this week. We've been trying our best to keep everything as tiny as possible for safety reasons, not just for us, but like for our clients, you know. If I can, we're not even doing public spaces anymore. We tried it for one session. We went to a public park and it was a disaster. And our clients got like threatened to be fined for not wearing a mask and stuff. And we're just like, okay, this isn't a good idea. Let's not do this. So yeah, we're keeping as safe as possible. You know, people definitely still want to be photographed, and it's still a special thing to me. So we're just trying to keep it safe and healthy, and we're getting tested a few times a month. Thankfully, we have, you know, I have some clients that have doctor's offices and stuff that we can go to, and that's the best we can do.
Mark?
Yeah, well, I picked up an oldie but goodie last week. So I picked up a Fuji X-T3 and a 16-80 f4 lens that they came out with. I sold my X-T3 back in February, but decided to pick it back up just because I kind of missed having an interchangeable lens camera besides a Leica. So I've been using that the last couple of days, and it's been fun to kind of get back into something that reminds me of like my old days of using a zoom. So I'm basically just using that to shoot more of a gear change than a subject change. You know, still shooting family and my family and day-to-day life.
Nice.
It's funny. When I got my Q, I promised my wife I would sell my XH1 to pay for part of the Q. And I haven't because it's the same thing. I like having a zoom.
Yeah.
Like nothing else I have zooms, and it does make a big difference a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally also, it's just, you know, the reason I sold it to begin with, it just wasn't a very, if you want to call, inspiring camera. I mean, it is compared to like other cameras that I've used in the past, but it just didn't, you know, I had an X100, I had a Leica M, so it was, you know, I never really grabbed for that. But now it's like, okay, I look at it as a tool where it's like, it serves a purpose and that's it. I have one lens for it, a zoom lens. So if I need to use a zoom lens, this is the camera I use. There's I'm not buying any primes for it. I do have an adapter to run to adapt the Leica lenses that I have. I have a couple of Voigtlanders, like 28, 35, and 50 lenses. But, you know, this is my utilitarian device that sits there. And if I want to use that, that's fine. You know, and it's a completely separate use case than the other cameras I have.
I had to train myself to stop using a zoom because up until basically last year, I was shooting like most of my work. I had a 24-70 on my Canon 5D Mark IV, and then I had the R for a little while, and I had a 24-70 on it, pretty much either a 50 or a 24-70. And when I switched over to Leica, just like Matt Day did, something we got to talk about soon, I had to, you know, it's only primes. Luckily, with the Q2, I have the option of a 28 or a 35. I find myself shooting a lot more with the 35 than the 28, to be honest with you. Like, I really like having that 35, those 35 frame lines on there. It makes it feel more like an M to have frame lines on it instead of just like the whole picture in the EVF, you know? But anyway, yeah, I feel you on the zoom, but it's just, I think I put myself in a more challenging position purposely to not use a zoom.
Yeah, it's more for fun in the use case. Like, I mean, this might be something I take traveling where, you know, you just want to capture like moments, right? It's not anything. I don't want to say it's not a creative tool, but yeah, I mean, there's a certain use cases where, to be honest with you, the thing that I missed or wanted the most out of it was actually a wider field of view, which is why you guys know I had a Q for a while and then tried it out. Didn't really like the whole camera. And what I miss from the Q is actually the wider focal length for certain things. So having the 16, which is a 24 mil equivalent, is actually really interesting, but still gives me, you know, the flexibility that if I do want something a little tighter and I don't have to go grab a whole other camera to do that, you know.
Right. I had bought when I got the SL2, I got the Panasonic 24, I think it was a 24 to 70. Yeah, 24 to 70. And I used it on like 2 shoots and I literally hated it. Like well, first of all, the lens itself was like plasticky and just didn't feel right, especially being on like a Leica. And I returned it. I ended up I bought it from B&H and I returned it because I really didn't like it at all. It just didn't feel natural anymore to be using a zoom.
Like, that thing is a ton of money. It's not even a constant aperture, right?
It is constant aperture.
It is?
It's a 2.8, yeah.
Right.
The Leica 24 to 90 is a 2.8 to a 4, which is, it sucks. Like but to be fair, that lens is incredible for what it is. And also with the SL2, you have image stabilization, so you can shoot at a much slower shutter speed if you have to shoot at 90 f4. You know what I mean? So like, it kind of balances out. But that lens came out with the SL1, which didn't have the same image stabilization as the SL2, and you really were limited to shooting with a 4. And I've seen some amazing images. Like, I mean, look at Steve McCurry's images that he made in China recently with the SL2 and the 24 to 70. I mean, 24 to 90, I'm sorry. And like, they're stunning, but it's not a lens that I would buy. I would rather buy a 90. You know what I mean? Like, I roll around at a wedding with an SL2 with a 50, a Q2, and an M10 with a 90 on it.
M10 with a 90 at a wedding. Okay. You do you.
Yeah, man. It's definitely, it's challenging, but it's super fun. I have the magnifier for the rangefinder, the 1.4 magnifier, so it brings out those frame lines nice and big, and it just, I feel like it's like a little sniper machine. It's awesome. I just keep it in my side bag, and I just pull it out for like, usually during ceremony when I can't get too close, if it's like a big church and stuff, I'll pull that out. I would love to get either a 105 or 135. I tried the Sigma 135 and the autofocus was garbage, like straight garbage. I returned that shit immediately. I was like, take this out of here. Like, I've tried so many Sigma lenses and I hate them, but that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah. So what are you shooting this week, Yanni?
I don't really have anything planned. I was discussing with Marc a couple of days ago. I started riding my bike again. I'm like, I kind of want to carry a camera on my bike, and I have a little like bag in the front.
GR3, man.
But tell him what you thought about it. Tell him what you thought.
I like to do dumb things. I was like, man, I should get like an X Pro 3, the Fuji, because it has the lens in the back that you could flip, that it covers the LCD. I'm like, I put that in my bag and it won't get scratched. It's weather sealed. I could get a small, either 27mm pancake or just my 16 f2.8 Fuji lens, which are small. I would just fit in the bag perfectly. It's a strong camera. But then again, why the heck would I spend like, what is it, like $1,500 for that body to throw it in a bag on my bike and go ride and possibly destroy it? So yeah, I'll either carry my GF2, which I still own because I never saw anything.
That's what insurance is for.
I'm not insuring this. What's wrong with you?
I'm just saying, like, you can insure your gear in general, and then like take your Q, and if it gets destroyed, then you just get a new one.
I know, but I still have like this poor man mentality where like, I don't want to spend extra money on insurance. I just won't break it.
I guess.
I know, like I know I need to. Like, you're 100% right. I just don't. But you're 100% right on that. But it's been one of those mental hurdles where like, I should really insure all of this so I could actually when I travel, I carry almost every single camera I own just because I don't want to leave them in my house.
I mean, I am basically in the same situation now. I'm going to pretty much be taking my whole kit. And I only have, like, I mean, I don't really have a backup yet because the SL2 hasn't been available up until now, and I don't think that spending 6 Gs on a camera during COVID is like the move.
The wise thing.
So yeah, so like I mean, if something were to happen to my SL2, I could continue shooting what I'm shooting with a Q2 until I'm sure someone at Leica can help me get an SL2 to replace it, but it will take time. You know, it's actually more worrisome about my the 50 Apo SL than the SL2. But you know, what are you gonna do, man? Get insurance, cute dog.
All right, pause for a second. Just because
ain't having this.
you need to enable screen sharing again. I figured pause. You'll be able to find this because I can't screen share. I was gonna jump to the next segment and get the profile up, but yeah, I can't
turn
screen
it
share.
on.
It sucks that it doesn't stay on like
Well, we
eternally.
changed it too, so.
Oh damn!
I was gonna move to our shout out section.
All right, you're up.
Dude.
Hold on. Wait, damn it! Why is freaking do this thing? Hang on. There you go. Okay. Switch between that and that. Okay. Let me get this for it. Oh my God. Okay. Okay, so we're continuing. And a 1, and a 2, and okay, so I think we wanted to also take a point in the show to just kind of call out some photographers, and whether it's Instagram accounts, people we know personally, you know, businesses, anything that, you know, we want to just give a shout out to. I think Yanni and I both tied on this, so I'll go ahead and share. There's a photographer that we've come across. I'm sure we both chatted with him on Instagram before. His name is Yaniel. I'm going to butcher that, so help me.
I'm going to go with that.
My fellow Spanish speakers. Yeah, so his account is really interesting. I like the work he shoots. I think he shoots to the Leica. I think he shot with Fuji. I mean, it doesn't really particularly matter the gear, but his style is reminiscent to me of like an Alex Webb style, which I really like. Yeah,
wow, this is really good.
Yeah, I have the Alex Webb book here on my desk because we were talking about this a little bit earlier. So, you know, really cool work. Really like his work a lot. And, you know, seems to be a cool guy just, you know, in chatting with him. So just wanted to shout him out as a photographer that I think we enjoy at least seeing his work. You know, every time he posts something, I'm like, it's going to be really interesting. Yeah, really cool. So that I think that, like I said, Yaniel and I both came up with him as somebody to call out as a photographer that we, you know, see on Instagram where we like their work. So
the gear matters. The gear matters. I want to know what he shoots with.
Actually, I was gonna say it doesn't, but that's kind of why I like him, because he shoots with an X100. He shoots with, I think, an X Pro. He shoots with an M. He shoots film, and no matter what he's shooting with, his work always looks consistent.
Correct. Yeah.
So
that's why I said
it's pretty crazy.
The time
you give him any camera, and it looks he's getting in their face like with the camera, and it's this really cool like compositions and vantage points.
Scroll up a little bit.
Yeah. There you go.
Go up a little bit more. Keep going. There's a shot that was just like, wow.
Which one?
Keep going. I mean, all of them, realistically. Yeah. I love that one with the, that one right there.
That was the one I saw too, yeah.
Dude,
I mean, a lot of his work is like that. Yeah. And to Yanni's point, right, I mean, yes, the gear matters, I mean, but I think it's, you know, and he's found like his formula, if you will, right, his style, and I think it's just really cool. Like I said, it's reminiscent of Alex Webb, but I think it's not a copycat, right? I mean, it's not very cliche. I mean, if you look at Alex Webb's work and even his work, right, there's a lot of layering to it. So like, you know, there's things in the foreground, the background, and let me see there.
Yeah, I think Alex Webb has more shadow play than he does. But his colors are wild, dude.
Yeah,
they're so
and they're not
good.
overblown, but at the same time, they're vivid, right? They're vivid, but they're not
like I
oversaturated.
really like that a lot, man.
Yeah, they're
really
hyper realistic,
like
but also not. It's you know, I think, you know, if we're talking the digital age here, right? It's a combination of both the editing style as well as the composition and everything else, right? Because you know, it's just really cool. So yeah, I mean, you know, he's actually from Florida too. I think he's from Orlando or something like that. So combination of colors, composition, the layering, you know, just, you know, one of my favorite accounts to like see work from on Instagram. So Yeah, I mean, check him out. He's at Daniel Anez, ANEZ photo on Instagram. And yeah, I guess that's Yaniel and my pick for the day. Christian, you have anybody else you wanted to shout out? I think you had some folks that you wanted to shout out.
Yeah, man, I want to shout out I want to shout out to my boy Carlos from a little spot here in Miami called Tinta y Café. I've been a regular there for some time, and Carlos is part owner and also a chef at the restaurant, and he also has been dabbling in street photography as well, and it's really great work. He lives out of Miami Beach, so he gets to see really cool stuff, really cool characters. His user is Carlito, CARLITO 21. I'm actually wearing his shirt because I wanted to rep that. He hooked me up with this shirt.
I am wearing the competitor.
Holy crap.
Yeah, but yeah, I think you go to Tinta more than you go to Chugs.
It depends if it's a Saturday or a Sunday.
Yeah, got it.
I just realized,
Yeah,
so we both been, let me see, I have a, let me see, when did he go here? He posted this, a couple hours ago, it looks like. I actually went into Puerto Rico and took a picture of this same basketball court. It's a really like vivid court and like where it is, like the scenery, I mean, it is what it shows there. So yeah, kudos. I like this spot.
He actually spends a lot of time in Puerto Rico.
He does a lot of cool like portrait work. Do you know if he's there now in Puerto Rico?
I don't know.
Yeah.
He does a lot of cool portrait work. He has a really great eye for like characters, characters like you said.
Great.
He went to the protests and
man. So I just wanted to following him for a while. I just realized that they got to the protest. I've seen this stuff before. Yeah, I think I do.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
To Christian's prior point about equipment mattering, this is how iPhone.
Yeah.
He just uses his phone for everything, and it's great because he's just getting in there taking cool shots.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get him into Leica though.
And he is prolific.
It's working. It's working.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned gear, and I'm sure we'll touch on it because you can't talk about photography or anything that has tech in it without talking about the gear. But I think the eye definitely trumps the gear, right? Because if you have the right eye and vision for it, then kind of.
Oh my God, 100%, dude, 100% for sure.
Yeah. I think the three of us, at least Yaniel and I, like we both talk about the gear because there's obviously objects that kind of inspire us to do stuff. But there are times you see stuff. I mean, and I actually looked back at my personal Instagram not too long ago, and I was like, wow, I actually took some quite interesting shots with a iPhone 3G and 4 and whatever that I had a camera available, right?
I do have to say, and not because this is a camera I shoot with or the camera that, many legendary photographers have shot with, but like there's definitely something to be said about shooting with a Leica M and the fact that it's like everything is manual about it. You know what I mean? Like there's definitely, in my personal opinion, something to be said about that I feel more accomplished when I make a really great photo with my Leica M than when I do with my Q2 or like my SL2. I'm not saying that you can make a better image or not or whatever. It's just like me personally, I feel more accomplished knowing that I used a fully manual camera to create an image over an autofocus camera or anything like that.
Yeah. The analogy I like to use a lot is that, like I used to have a Honda S2000, right? It was a relatively bare bones, not very high horsepower by comparison, manual transmission. The car had like basically 2 seats, AC, and an engine and transmission. There wasn't a whole lot of, frills to it, but it was one of the most enjoyable cars to drive, even though now I have something that has a lot more tech. It's more, it's faster, it's more powerful. It was just, the manual element to that car and just being connected to it was something, it was a part of the experience, right? Regardless of how fast it was. And I think the same thing can be applied, or same concept can be applied to, the camera or the tools you use, whatever it is, right? It's just something that if you appreciate, the discipline, the hobby, whatever you want to call it, some people will enjoy that and as part of the experience, or whether or not it makes you a better photographer or not. I think people get that confused where it's like, because you use XYZ camera does not make you a better photographer or a better driver, better this.
I don't think so. Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Enjoyment. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, that's the reason I still have Leicas, right? I mean, they're probably not the most practical cameras for me personally, but they're definitely one of the more enjoyable cameras to use, right? and why I probably won't get rid of them anytime soon, even though they, like I said, they don't technically fit. You know, again, I'm techie.
If
I like the
you
technology. You know?
if you were to put all of your other cameras in a drawer, or even sell them to be like dramatic, and only like force yourself to only shoot with a Leica M, you would be surprised at how fast
I go buy an
like
X100.
it would be a practical use camera.
Yeah.
But you have to like, I mean, you just have to put the use into it.
Yeah.
If you let it sit there and yeah, exactly. If you let it sit there and then every time you pick it up, you're like fidgeting and struggling with the focus because it's manual, it's gonna take forever. But if you use it every day, like when I travel, I only shoot with my M10, and like, dude, by the end of the trip, I'm like, it's like glued to my hand, you know?
Yeah. I've seen some of your travel pictures from that you shot with your M10, and like, you know, again, like anything, you can get great pictures of whatever tool you're using. I think for me, sometimes it's like I get lazy and I just don't want to be bothered. Right? I don't want to be bothered with that. I just want it like easy button, right? Where I'm using like all the fancy, you know, eye autofocus and stuff. So I mean, that's my personal reason. And
no, I feel you. I mean, that's why I shoot autofocus for work, because I want to make my work easier. I don't want to
and I mean, thankfully,
shout out to like Ben Hayes, who shoots like his weddings with a Leica M.
That's wild. Yeah, Ben Hayes is
wild. That's super wild.
Yeah. So I got one more shout out, and this is kind of personal friend of mine. Let me go ahead and get his site up here. Where we got? So the hat I'm wearing is from a friend of mine. He has a company, an apparel company called No Bueno Apparel. So the hat I'm wearing is the Miami Vice colors. I mean, no, I'm not from Miami. You know, get off my case. I know you're gonna say that, but this is Miami Vice colors. He has other colors as well. You know, like I said, a good friend of mine, you know, wanted to show support for his business. He actually did a run of, really quickly, all black versions of the hats that I'm wearing here. You know, to support some of the racial inequality stuff that was happening last month. He had a special that was going on where he would donate, like, you know, all or some of the profits, I forget what the actual percentage was, to a charity. I think he picked, I forgot the name of it, was the Color of Justice or something like that. So it was really cool, you know, cause and everything. So I bought this one. I bought the one I have on my head. I had, you know,
dude, the one you have on is pretty dope. I was noticing it earlier. Yeah,
so I just want to shout him out because, you know, again, you know, support small local businesses, and also, again, you know, he was doing this for a good cause. So check him out. This is his site. I think it's up here. You know, so he has snapbacks. He has the distressed hats. He actually just launched, because this one has like the little rips in it, which, to be honest, is not really my style. But, you know, I want to support him and everything. So he has a bunch of stuff on here. You know, check him out. He's local, like I said, and, you know, has a couple different types of designs and so on, different colors. So just want to give him a shout out really quickly.
Sweet. Guys, like and subscribe this video, please. We're trying to get things rolling here on YouTube, and you know, I'm sure every YouTube video you hear says like and subscribe, but it's the only way to get us like on the search and in the algorithm, and that really helps a lot. So we want you guys to be part of the discussion. So leave any comments or questions below, and then for our next episode, if we get any questions, we'll answer them as best we can and do all that stuff. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, just echoing that, right? Comments and feedback. I mean, you know, we're obviously normally we'd be all getting together, probably go shoot and you know, have this discussion in private over beers, but, you know, considering current circumstances, we're you know, relegated to doing this. So figure why not make it a conversation? You know, possibly get other people on. I mean, we're considering potentially having guests in the future on, just, you know, since we're doing this over Zoom meeting.
Totally. Yeah. If you're interested in being on the show, let us know. And
you know, even if it's just a talk shop, right? I mean, you know, I think this is just good conversation. I think we all enjoy it. And again, you know, we can't all hang out at the bar and talk this type of stuff like we used to. So I think it's a good opportunity to just, you know, talk about the hobby that we like, or love in some cases.
Yeah.
Or that put food on the table.
And hopefully next week we'll figure out how to have a live session, so you guys could join in and be a part of, like, watch it live and talk to us in the chat, and we can have a discussion.
Yeah.
Move the topics on like that as well.
Yeah.
But besides that, I think that's about wraps it up. Thank you to anybody or everybody that's watched this. I can't believe anybody's even watched it, which has felt amazing so far. So thank you all for checking it out.
Yeah, remember to check us out on Instagram. I mean, again, if you're not watching the videos, that's fine too. And it is just our faces, so you can also just listen to it in the background if needs be. But we appreciate anybody that's listening in, and yeah, we'll catch you guys next time.
Cool.
Cool.
Later, guys.
All right, folks. Later.